G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome back for another look at the Path of Exile patch 1.3 passive skill tree changes. And in this video I'm going to be going over the block rebalance, or should I say, the block nerf. So the first thing to establish is that yes, block has been heavily reduced throughout the tree. You can see here on the left hand side of the screen is the new Path of Exile. This is the new one, isn't it? This is the new one, the new passive skill tree, and on the right we have the old passive skill tree. Now looking down here we can see our different block amounts and compare these two things and see how much exactly it has been nerfed, and see if everyone's going crazy about this is warranted. So firstly, we have 41% additional chance to block with shields on the new passive skill tree, 41% for shields. And then over here we have 79% chance to block with shields. So, down from 79 to 41% on the new skill tree. So that is a pretty hefty reduction in the amount of block that's available. And then we can compare other things as well. Here we have things like 29% additional chance to block while dual wielding, 41% additional chance to block while dual wielding. So this is across the board, essentially. And you can kind of see, if we look at the overall skill tree, even just the amount of stuff available is looking quite a bit less. You can see it's a little bit less populated throughout the tree. There's a little bit less there. You know, basically what I did here was highlighted all block chance nodes and then routed them using the auto route feature. And you can see just how much more routing and stuff is available in the old tree as compared to the new one. So yes, just looking at the passive skill tree alone, and if this was all we look at, you'd say block has been heavily nerfed. Max block builds, you could probably go, whoa, the max block builds are not going to be possible anymore. Max block builds are still possible. Once you get a decent block shield, and it's not even counting using some of the additional block uniques, you can still achieve max block, but it is much more difficult to do. So why is all of this? Are they just like nerfing block and that's all they're doing? What's the kind of reasoning behind this? So first I will bring over this part just here. Let's start off with this side. Actually, we have a post here from Rory, and we said the change to reducing block chance was for both PvE and PvP reasons. So we'll get some background reasoning here. The real cost of using block was build choices rather than passive points or damage. Some builds couldn't cap block, some could without breaking a sweat and achieve similar levels of damage. So this part here is a really important point. Is that it's rather than it being kind of like decision, I'm going to sacrifice some damage and other things from my build to be able to cap block. It's more of just if you were playing a build that can cap block, you can cap block easily, and it didn't really take all that much investment. So continue on here. To a subset of players, that made it feel mandatory and was definitely the most efficient route for taking on some endgame content. Fingers crossed the changes to block chance will bring block-less builds back on par with block builds for endgame efficiency. So, that's a pretty interesting first point there. It seems like the ZiggyD mindset in reducing the amount of block is to hopefully, through other means, increase the potential of non-block builds, and then make block a more of a decision that you actually have to sacrifice, make more opportunity cost associated with going max block, rather than just the opportunity cost of not playing a build that can't go block, essentially. So some people are saying, you know, this is just a nerf specifically for PvP. I do think that PvP is a small part of it, and Rory did mention that, but I do think PvE is the most significant reason for this, and it sounds mostly like it's a build diversity thing. Now, I don't play too many melee builds, but I do hear the statement where people say things like block or bust, essentially, that feeling like for certain builds block was mandatory. So hopefully, alongside of some of the other changes, we're going to see block builds still be viable and even strong, but require more investment, but then other options become strong and viable. So hopefully that's the case. Now, the important thing to remember here, guys, is that we don't have the patch notes just yet. So looking at something like this in isolation, where this block is quite clearly heavily reduced, looking at this by itself is obviously a massive nerf, but it's difficult to see or know kind of what else is coming alongside of this that may change things. And this is where my next hypothesis comes in. We have where are these things? 3 counterattack skills allowing you to build reactive melee characters. So we're getting 3 new melee skills here, counterattack skills. Now my theory ever since I first saw this block thing was that Either they were buffing block on shields, which based on Rory's statements there, and based on the fact that they haven't mentioned anything about that yet, I don't think that's the case. I don't think they're buffing base block on shields. Maybe there's some extra block things available in some places, but maybe they come at a higher opportunity cost. But I do think that the block nerf has something to do with counterattacks. Now, it could be that counterattacks are dependent on block. So you block and then counterattack. That makes sense. That's like a thematic thing that works. So it could be that counterattack skills are very powerful, either defensively or offensively, or they provide a mixture of utility and offense. So that, I think, could be a big reason for the block nerf, because if you have easy to obtain max block on characters that are frankly already quite strong, like max block characters are very strong, and then give them counterattack skills that gives them a whole bunch more power, then that things become a little bit more ridiculous, and builds that were essentially seen as mandatory, or max block being mandatory, only becomes more mandatory. So it could be tied to block. The other thing is, it could be tied to not block, but it could be making it an alternative to block. So essentially, bringing block down a little bit. Block's still a powerful mechanic, and you can still cap it with a fair bit of investment, but by bringing it down a little bit, we instead bring up the other styles of builds to match it, and that is through the counterattack skills. So I think the counterattack skills are a big part of this set of changes here for block. So what does this mean for 1.3? It means that hopefully, once we see the patch notes, we'll know a little bit more, but hopefully you'll have some interesting choices to make in regards to block rather than block or bust. I think that's pretty much it. I think this is more of a video to kind of, I guess, temper some of the rage about block nerfs, and maybe provide some theories as to why this sort of set of changes has happened. I do think that max block will definitely be a little bit less common, but hopefully melee overall gets stronger. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's something that most people want. Melee is a little bit underrepresented in game, probably a lot underrepresented in game now, and I would like to see a lot more melee happening. Even though I don't personally enjoy playing melee myself all that much, I would like to see a lot more of it in game, and I would like to see that balance come up a little bit more. So here's looking forward to the new counterattack skills. Hopefully they are radass McBadass, and make things a little bit more interesting in Melee Land. Anyway guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.